Eric Kane has been reviewing Rings of Power, and I really like his reviews. He's very familiar with the lore, and it's kind of funny how he words things. But he did this really interesting piece, and it's entitled "The Real Reason Tolkien Fans Can't Stand the Rings of Power. It's Not Just Trolls." And this is kind of speaks to that the major problem here is not just fans. You've turned fans away, definitely, but it is not connecting to general audiences clearly, as the viewing numbers show. That's not just fans. That's just not the trolls. I just Sauron. Oh goodness, the great shapeshifter just puts another wig on. I just realized we haven't seen this Sauron yet. We still have another wig to unveil for the next episodes of Rings of Power. Continuing on. Amazon's epic fantasy series, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. That does not roll off the tongue very well. I hate saying that. Let's call it Rings of Power. And it's divisive, to say the least. It has passionate fans and equally passionate detractors. It has also inspired a pretty massive drop-off in viewership. Over 50% of viewers that started Season 1 have not come back to watch Season 2. Most of these aren't angry or hate watching, they're just apathetic. That's probably worse. After all, hate watching counts as a view, just the same as any other kind of watching. Co-showrunner JD Payne seems to understand this. In a recent interview he told The Hollywood Reporter, he said that he's happy to have detractors watch the series as well as fans. And this is the quote that we saw in the previous article. The Fellowship had to look to each other and those who support it and remember what it's fighting for. And when we see that millions of people are watching this and responding so positively to it, that's who we're fighting for. And those who watch every episode and negatively write about it on social media and make YouTube videos, we're happy to have you guys too. It wouldn't be a journey through Middle-earth without some trolls along the way. I'm sure Payne thought that one up ahead of time. As showrunner, of course, it's his job to defend and promote the show. And far be it from me to wag my finger at a bit of levity. It's a clever jab. But is it true? Are the show's critics simply trolls? Of course, there are trolls out there, but a great deal of criticism for the show is well-founded and compelling, and certainly the falling viewership numbers lend credence to critics. And I'm not just saying that because a great deal of this criticism has been made by me. Payne likens Amazon's production to the struggles faced by Frodo and the Fellowship on their journey across Middle-earth, which I do find a bit silly. It's a TV show, not a quest to end tyranny and destroy a great and powerful evil. I just sense the used car salesman PR speak, and I can tell it's so disingenuous. Everyone can tell that. Fans can tell, and even potential audiences can tell you're being fake. And he continues, because this show finds itself at the center of the never-ending culture wars, lickspittles at various publications have taken a similar approach when responding to critics of the series, though I am more sympathetic to the show's creators than to journalists. Take, for instance, the Mary Sue. In this piece, we are told, we're back with another installment of Let People Enjoy the Thing. This time we're talking about Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. It is yet again another series that people online want to hate on just because, I guess. I don't get it. The show is fun to watch. Okay, come on. Dang, gotta look up that word lickspittle. I know, that caught my attention too. I don't know what that is. There's a section of online journalists. This was going on pretty heavily with the Acolyte as well, or any other piece of mainstream, a famous IP. If there's any negative reaction to it, from its fans, then we just get labeled toxic or whatever, any name under the sun. And that's not to say that there aren't like a section of people who maybe are those things, bigots or whatever, but come on, it's a very tiny minority in comparison. And you cannot lump all of us in with that, because most of us, most fans, we're just nerdy and passionate about the thing that we like. And when you get the details right, when you bastardize lore, we're gonna have an opinion on it, which is what fandom is. It's what being a nerd is. We care about these details. We care about the thing that we're nerdy for, whether it's Star Trek, Star Wars, Doctor Who, Lord of the Rings. And if there's something that we don't like about it, what's going on, yeah, we're going to say and have an opinion. Whether it's positive or negative, both things. I wish it was positive for the most part when it comes to these IPs that we love, but I don't know, sometimes it doesn't work out that way. Anyway, so the question posed here, the author freely admits that they do not know the answer. Why it's getting hate on? Just because She's like, I don't get it. The show is fun to watch. And no, it's not, but okay. Anyways, he continues, the purpose of this post is to create villains, not to understand them or strengthen the arguments against them, but simply to paint them in the worst light possible. Of course, we should probably not expect much when the piece opens with, it is yet again another series that people online want to just hate on, because, I guess. He continues, the villains in this morality play are quickly placed in various deplorable baskets, with most of them complaining about the inclusion in the series. They are entirely male, of course. Centering the series around Galadriel instantly put the angry men on alert. We are informed, as do characters of color. Then we get this truly baffling argument with a subtle, no true Scotsman in the way, quotes, around fans, which is done repeatedly throughout the article about Tolkien's estate. Okay, so this is an excerpt from the Mary Sue article. These fans, in quotations, have said that they don't like the liberties the show is taking with J.R.R. Tolkien's work, but that argument isn't actually founded in what Tolkien and his family want. Do you know how I know that? Because the Tolkien estate is heavily involved in the show. You know what the Tolkien family didn't love? Mainly Christopher Tolkien, the Peter Jackson movies. This quote is just, you're being deliberately obtuse and deliberately ignorant. Just because they're involved doesn't mean anything. Just because they took the money Amazon gave them means nothing. And you know how I know that? Because look at what we have. An entirely contrived work that bastardizes at every opportunity and creates opportunities to bastardize Tolkien's canon and mythology. And not just that, everything down to its themes. Even if it did divert from canon, it doesn't feel like it's within the same vein or spirit of Tolkien's work. Even in that respect, it fails. Jackson expanded the battle scenes, not savaged the lore. He had issues with the level of violence and other things, but you can't deny that it maintained the same love, respect for the source material, and the spirit, the themes that he imbued within it. But I can guarantee you, one thing I know for sure, is that if Christopher Tolkien had an issue with the Peter Jackson films, I'm pretty sure he would definitely have an issue with Rings of Power. Eric Kane continues, I hate to break it to you, but J.R.R. Tolkien has shuffled off this mortal coil. He died long before he could offer an opinion on the series or give his blessing to any adaptation over the past 50 years. What he wants, or whether he would grant his blessing to this project, can only be speculated upon. But based on everything he wrote about adaptations when he was alive, and on everything he wrote about attention to detail, I suspect he would have been horrified by this series. It's true that Christopher Tolkien was not a fan of the much more faithful Peter Jackson films, but Christopher Tolkien is also dead, and we can only suspect that if he took issue with Jackson's trilogy, he would recoil in horror at Rings of Power. Simon Tolkien, like Denethor in Gondor, is the steward of the Tolkien estate and sold the rights and consults on the series in some fashion, but Simon Tolkien no more wrote The Lord of the Rings than I did. Estates routinely make choices that the author themselves, long in the grave, would likely not make. Yeah, he puts that very well. What does that even have to do with anything? Simon Tolkien okayed it, so we don't have any right to complain? I mean, at the end of the day, they are treating this as a business transaction. And clearly, I mean, what the fans would love and appreciate if this wasn't so corporate or commercial, and that the main focus was on preserving the spirit of what Tolkien wrote, its themes, and respecting the source material in that regard. Yeah, unfathomable that Tolkien fans would want a little authentic Tolkien in Tolkien's IP, right?